hours.
No, it's going to be less than 50 hours, but it's still.
Okay. But this is exactly the sort of discussion that needs to be having. How many farms? Well, let's say 3 farms. Do we have 20 quests per farm? Yes, no. You start brainstorming ideas for quests. All of your documentation should be cascading downward. Okay, we want this. That means these other 2 things, and those other 2 things mean these other things, and so it goes from there. You build it that way. Does that make sense? Okay.
What's the next step?
The next step, hopefully, is they'll look at people who are giving you money, will look at your prototype, and say, okay, we like this, keep building it. They'll look at your documentation and see that it's good, and say, fantastic, here's more money, keep building this. And without giving away anything proprietary, this is when you really need to start nailing down your gameplay and what the player is actually going to be doing minute to minute of the game. It's also when you need to start getting your documentation ready down to the spec level. The person who's going to build this needs to know this much.
Excuse me, if you can edit. I'm not very happy with this plot until now, because we have a direct translation of GTA, and we have nothing very different or very tasty to get some things inside it.
Okay.
Do you feel happy with this plot?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What's the void in here?
What's missing then?
Humor.
Okay, humor.
You look very good.
Right. Okay, so we should be making sure that humor is a part of this. And this is something that can come out of play testing and prototyping. Okay, it's not funny if you play it straight, or it's not fun if you play it straight, but if you play it funny, if you put in cartoon physics effects as opposed to real physics effects, if you make the noise instead of a car horn, then maybe you've got something that works with all of the rest of this. And again, the humor ties better to the fairy tale and to the fact that you've got walking pigs running around being chased by a wolf who's a cop. Okay? And the other thing we need to do is we need to bring up our unique features. We talked about decorating the home that you were making to defend from the wolf. We need to not forget about that. That was one of our original cool ideas. We can't let that fall by the wayside. So we need to think about the features that would be necessary for finding stuff and decorating with it. We need to find a way to reward the player for decorating, things like that.
And what do you think about a strong feminine presence in this game? Miss Piggy, for example.
Okay, a strong feminine presence. We're starting to get into story. And story is something that story and characters tie into how many spaces are we going to have, how many characters are we going to have, things like that, because they help determine each other. This is the point where you'd start working on that as well. Okay, we want a strong feminine presence, say Miss Piggy, or a thinly disguised clone thereof. We bring her in, and we start thinking about, okay, how does this character interact? What do they bring to the world? What can the player do to interact with her?
Bring the magic.
Okay. Great. So I think we are at our halfway point at this point. At this point, you are still in what we call pre-production. You'll be working on pre-production potentially until you have a basic working build of the game. But that flows from what you're doing here. And the most important step from here on in is doing iterative checks, getting people to play the build, playing the build yourself, and checking against that initial idea you came up with. Okay, it's GTA in fairy tale land with a sense of humor. Does this make sense? Okay.
Excuse me, I have another question. they don't have, I have a lot of. When you said a strong feminine presence in this game, it's a part of the narrative. No? I think this is a very strong presence in the mechanic of the game. People, females, have a different inside of the men. they play in a different way. So if you can bring a Miss Piggy inside it, I think you need to rewrite the mechanics to bring some more multitasking, for example, to the limits of the game.
Okay, that's one possibility taken. Another would be to go back to first causes. Where does it say the three little pigs are boys? Could we do a variant where you could have three little pigs be girls?
It can be, but girls like to use a female body, and they prefer, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's potentially one way to tie the mechanics. If you're using the female figure as a mentor figure, you need to figure out, build the mechanics to support her presence in the game as well, like you're talking about here. And again, this is something that we probably get through iterative prototyping. Okay, she's not doing much. How do we make her more important? How do we get her involved? How do we make the player want to talk to her?
Okay.
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 I have a question about, we didn't talk about storyline or system, how that will be make this game do some sense to people using heritage. How about the storyline and when it fix the development process of the game? Because to me it's difficult to think about something that's no story or something to like a goal to get me there.
Okay, you're not only talking about story, you're talking about narrative design. And this would be the time when that come in. Because you don't just want to have a story. At the same time you're thinking of the story, you need to think about all the ways you're going to tell the story to the player. Are you going to have a dialogue system? Yes or no? Are you going to have cutscenes?
Or sometimes, because any kind of story, have got more features or tools for that. That's another topic.
Exactly, yes. And if the story demands a feature you don't have in the game, you either need to add the feature or change the story. So when you're developing your feature list and starting to nail that down is when you need to start thinking about story as well, and how you're going to present the story and what tools you're going to need to present the story to the player.
When is the time? What happened to make you look to your idea and say this is not going to work? What are the causes or whatever?
When do you look at it and say this isn't going to work?
It's not going to work.
That can happen anytime. That can happen on a scribbled up sheet of paper. That can happen
How
right
much
before
can you go
release.
back? How much can you go back when you start developing?
At a certain point, if the project. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. At any point along the way, a game can be killed. It can be killed suddenly and without mercy. It can be killed from the concept stage to pre-production to production to final polish, and people look at it and say, "Oh my God, this is going to lose money. We can't put it out there." It'll be embarrassing.
What do you think about this StarCraft goes something just to deliver?
StarCraft Ghost, again, that's their call. They felt it wasn't going to do what they needed it to do. I don't know enough about their